Love is not just an emotion, right? It's a choice that you make every single day.
Blood smeared across pristine walls. Handprints dragged along cream-colored carpet. A bedroom destroyed beyond recognition. Dresser drawers emptied and stacked in bizarre formations. A bed violently upended, and personal belongings scattered in chaotic disarray. This wasn't a random break-in. This was rage personified. In the bathroom, more horror awaited investigators. The murder weapon, a Buddha statue, now covered in blood and hair. The victim, a 40-year-old woman who had suffered a savage beating so severe that her facial bones and ribs were shattered. But the killing blow came not from blunt force trauma. A pillowcase had been forced down her throat, suffocating her in the final moments of a prolonged, agonizing attack. The most disturbing element? The unervingly calm 911 call that brought police to this North Kensington, Maryland home on March 7, 2021. The caller's voice betrayed no panic, no emotion, just a man calmly reporting he had found his wife dead after returning from church. Lauren Charles wasn't just another statistic. She was brilliance embodied, a scientific mind with advanced degrees, who excelled in analytical fields, connecting people and ideas with natural ease. Colleagues described her as the glue that held teams together, the catalyst that sparked innovation. To friends from her New Orleans upbringing, Lauren was the bubbly go-getter who radiated warmth and fearlessness. Her high school companions, still close decades later, spoke of a woman who never seemed to fear anything, a trait that made her subsequent victimization all the more tragic. She maintained these deep connections throughout her life, a testament to her loyalty and genuine spirit. Family members cherished Lauren as a devoted daughter who called regularly and showed up consistently. She embraced her role as stepmother with the same enthusiasm she brought to everything else. Lauren Charles lived fully, loved deeply, and left an indelible mark on everyone fortunate enough to know her, making what happened next all the more devastating. If you think you know where the story is heading, you might be wrong. Stay with me to discover how a successful, intelligent woman fell victim to a monster hiding in plain sight. Her story contains crucial warnings that could save lives, perhaps even yours or someone you love. Welcome to Explosive True Crime Stories, where we examine real cases that shake us to our core, not just to recount tragedy, but to understand it and prevent future harm. Today's account goes beyond the headlines to reveal dangerous truths about modern relationships. In an age where dating apps and online connections have transformed how we meet potential partners, Lauren's story serves as a powerful warning. Behind profile pictures and carefully crafted messages can lie elaborate deceptions, entire fabricated identities designed to ensnare trusting victims. What makes this case particularly haunting is how a woman of such intelligence and accomplishment could be manipulated so completely. It challenges our assumptions about who can fall prey to domestic violence and reminds us that abusers are often master manipulators who gradually isolate their victims. As we explore the relationship between Lauren Charles and Reggie Dunlap, we'll identify the warning signs that, in hindsight, foretold the violence to come, signals that might save someone else from a similar fate. The vibrant streets of New Orleans shaped Lauren Charles from her earliest days. Growing up in this cultural melting pot, she absorbed its resilience, creativity, and joie de vivre. Childhood friends recall a girl who approached life with unbridled enthusiasm, tackling challenges that made others hesitate. Whether it was speaking up in class when no one else would or being the first to try something new, Lauren established herself as fearlessly authentic. Her high school years revealed a natural leader who excelled academically while maintaining a wide social circle. Lauren wasn't confined to a single clique. She moved effortlessly between different groups, bringing people together even then. She never met a stranger. One childhood friend explained. Lauren could talk to anyone about anything and make them feel like they'd known her forever. This magnetic personality came with remarkable intuition. Lauren seemed to sense when friends needed support before they voiced their struggles. She showed up with comfort food during breakups, offered rides without being asked, and remembered small details about everyone in her orbit. These qualities created friendships that would endure for decades, surviving distance and life changes that typically erode such connections. Her laughter, described as infectious and genuine, became her signature. Lauren found humor in difficult situations and joy in simple pleasures, a quality that would later make her vulnerability to manipulation all the more surprising to those who knew her best. Lauren's academic journey reflected her insatiable curiosity and analytical mind. After graduating near the top of her high school class, she pursued higher education with characteristic determination, eventually earning advanced degrees in scientific fields. Her professors noted her rare ability to grasp complex concepts while also explaining them in accessible terms, a talent that would serve her well professionally. By her mid-30s, Lauren had built an impressive career trajectory. She worked in specialized analytical roles, where precision and attention to detail were paramount. Colleagues described her as meticulous yet creative, someone who could identify innovative solutions to entrenched problems. Her professional reputation grew not just for technical expertise, but for her collaborative approach that elevated entire teams. What set Lauren apart in her field was her exceptional communication skills. In an industry often dominated by technical experts who struggled with interpersonal dynamics, she bridged gaps between departments and translated complex data into actionable insights. This talent earned her rapid promotions and increasing responsibility. By the time she met Reggie Dunlap, Lauren had established herself as an indispensable asset to her organization. Her work frequently took her to conferences and professional events, where she expanded her network and shared her expertise. Lauren's presentations were well attended, her papers widely cited. She had become a respected voice in her field, someone whose professional opinion carried significant weight. Outside her professional sphere, Lauren cultivated deep, meaningful relationships that formed a robust support network. Her friend group included people from various chapters of her life: childhood companions from New Orleans, college roommates, former colleagues, and neighbors. What united this diverse circle was their genuine affection for Lauren and her unwavering loyalty to them. Weekend brunches, holiday gatherings, and impromptu movie nights featured regularly in Lauren's calendar. She prioritized these connections, often driving hours to attend important events in her friends' lives. She never missed a baby shower, wedding, or hospital visit, recalled Chinedum Nwabesi McMillan, one of her closest confidants. Lauren showed up always, and that's increasingly rare in today's busy world. Her family relationships were equally strong. Weekly calls with her parents evolved into a sacred ritual, and she maintained close bonds with extended family members across generations.
A Silver Spring man is set to spend 55 years in prison, all for murdering his wife. This is Reginald Dunlap. He's 45 years old. A jury found him guilty back in March. Now, prosecutors say he killed his wife, Lauren Charles, back in 2021. Investigators found her body inside of this home right here, the couple's home. Now, I have to warn you right here, details of this killing are extremely disturbing. Investigators believe Dunlap forced a pillowcase down his wife's throat and beat her to death with a Buddha statue. They say he poured bleach on her body and ransacked their bedroom to make it look like a break-in. The father of Lauren Charles spoke after today's sentencing.
Lauren is living within us. She's still with us. She has an essence that will never disappear. The physical taking of her life was an incident that galvanized love and I guess a commitment to us sharing her light with others.
Yeah, making this all worse, prosecutors say Dunlap showed no remorse at his sentencing today.
Lauren became the unofficial family photographer, documenting gatherings and creating albums that preserved precious memories. Those who knew Lauren best described her as the emotional cornerstone of their lives, someone who remembered birthdays without social media reminders, who sent thoughtful gifts that proved how well she listened, who offered wisdom without judgment when sought. This made her gradual withdrawal after meeting Reggie all the more alarming to those who had come to rely on her consistent presence. In early 2016, Lauren Charles created a profile on a popular dating platform. At 40, she had established her career and built a fulfilling life, but hoped to find a partner who shared her values and ambitions. Friends later recalled her approach to online dating as methodical yet optimistic. She applied the same analytical skills that served her professionally to filtering potential matches. Reggie Dunlap's profile stood out. He presented himself as accomplished, educated, and spiritually grounded, a perfect complement to Lauren's own qualities. Their initial messages revealed apparent commonalities, similar professional interests, shared cultural references, and compatible life goals. The digital conversation flowed easily, with Reggie responding thoughtfully to Lauren's questions and showing genuine interest in her life. After weeks of increasingly frequent exchanges, they arranged to meet at a well-reviewed restaurant in downtown Baltimore. Lauren arrived characteristically early, texting a friend both the location and a photo of Reggie from his profile, a safety measure she always took with online dates. The evening exceeded her expectations. Reggie arrived with flowers, maintained engaging conversation, and demonstrated impeccable manners. He spoke of his consulting business, his community involvement, and his close family ties. Lauren described that first date to friends as refreshingly authentic. Unlike previous matches who had exaggerated their accomplishments or interests, Reggie seemed transparent and genuine. What Lauren couldn't know was that nearly everything he shared that evening, from his educational background to his professional achievements, was carefully fabricated. Their relationship accelerated quickly. Within weeks, they were seeing each other exclusively. Reggie's attentiveness during this honeymoon phase was absolute. He remembered details from their conversations, planned thoughtful outings based on her interests, and seemed to anticipate her needs. This intense focus, later recognized as love bombing, created a powerful emotional connection that would prove difficult to break. The first subtle warning signs appeared approximately 3 months into the relationship. Lauren's regular Sunday brunches with friends became less frequent, then sporadic, then rare. When she did attend, Reggie often called multiple times, citing various emergencies that required her immediate attention. These interruptions invariably cut her outings short. Chinedom, Lauren's friend since college, noticed concerning patterns in Reggie's behavior. He would text constantly when she was with us, then act wounded if she didn't respond immediately. She later told investigators. It seemed like monitoring disguised as affection. When friends visited Lauren's home, Reggie dominated conversations, frequently correcting Lauren's recollections of events or speaking over her, behaviors starkly contrasting with Lauren's descriptions of their private interactions. More troubling was Lauren's gradual personality shift. The woman who once offered strong opinions began deferring to Reggie on matters ranging from restaurant choices to major life decisions. Her vibrant wardrobe gave way to more conservative attire that Reggie deemed appropriate. Friends noticed her checking her phone anxiously when messages arrived, her expression reflecting relief when the content apparently passed muster. Family members who visited from New Orleans in late 2016 expressed concern about Reggie's tendency to isolate Lauren during their 5-day stay. He created reasons for Lauren to leave family gatherings early or miss them entirely. When present, he rarely engaged with her relatives, instead pulling Lauren into whispered conversations in corners or adjacent rooms. Perhaps most alarming was the inconsistency in Reggie's background stories. He told Lauren's colleagues he had attended Duke University, while telling her family he was a Princeton graduate. His claimed professional accomplishments shifted depending on the audience, with timelines that couldn't possibly align. When one friend gently pointed out these discrepancies to Lauren, she quickly defended him, explaining he was private about certain aspects of his past due to painful experiences, a justification that effectively shut down further questioning. The engagement announcement in early 2018 stunned Lauren's inner circle. The relationship had progressed rapidly, with Reggie moving into Lauren's Maryland home just 10 months after their first date. When Lauren called her parents with the news, her father expressed reservations about the timeline. Her mother later recalled Lauren's uncharacteristically defensive response. During a pre-engagement celebration, 3 of Lauren's closest friends attempted to voice their concerns privately. They questioned why they'd never met any of Reggie's friends or family, why his employment seemed vague, and why Lauren had become increasingly isolated. Their well-intentioned intervention backfired dramatically. Lauren interpreted their questions as an attack on her judgment and relationship, creating a rift that Reggie skillfully widened in subsequent months. Lauren and Reggie's wedding in early 2019 deviated dramatically from the celebration friends had anticipated. Instead of the vibrant gathering Lauren had once described, complete with New Orleans jazz and her large extended family. The ceremony was hastily arranged at a small venue with minimal decoration. Most striking to attendees was the lopsided guest list. Approximately 30 people from Lauren's life, and not a single person who identified as Reggie's friend or family member. When questioned about this imbalance, Reggie offered vague explanations about family estrangements and friends unable to travel on short notice. Throughout the reception, he remained oddly detached, spending minimal time interacting with Lauren's loved ones. Several guests later recalled how he frequently disappeared for important calls that pulled him away from key moments, including the first dance and cake cutting. Lauren's college roommate described the bride as present but subdued, noting that her typical effervescence seemed dimmed. She smiled for photos, but there was something mechanical about it. She later told investigators, "It wasn't the Lauren we knew, the woman who filled rooms with laughter and energy." The wedding photographer's images captured telling moments. Lauren repeatedly glancing at Reggie for approval before answering questions, his hand gripping her arm tightly while guiding her between groups, and her strained expression when he whispered in her ear during the father-daughter dance. These subtle visual cues, unremarkable in isolation, formed a disturbing pattern when viewed collectively. The 911 call placed by Reggie Dunlap at 3:42 p.m. remains one of the most disturbing elements of the case. Emergency dispatcher Tanya Wilson, a 15-year veteran, later testified about the unusual nature of the call. His voice was completely flat, Wilson recalled. "In thousands of emergency calls, I've never heard someone report finding their spouse dead with such detachment. There was no trembling, no elevated breathing, no background sounds of distress. Nothing that typically accompanies such a traumatic discovery." The 4-minute recording reveals Reggie methodically establishing his alibi while reporting the crime. "I just got home from church and running errands, and I found my wife," he stated in an eerily measured tone. "She's not breathing. There's blood. I think she's dead." When the dispatcher asked if he'd checked for a pulse or attempted CPR, Reggie responded with clinical precision, "No, I didn't touch anything. I can see she's been dead for some time. The blood is dried." This observation, that he could determine the blood was dried, would later contradict his claim that he merely glanced into the room before calling authorities. Most telling was Reggie's response when asked to wait outside for police. "I'll be in my car. I don't want to contaminate the crime scene." This unusual awareness of forensic procedures immediately raised red flags for investigators. What greeted Montgomery County police officers at the North Kensington residence defied their professional experience. Lead investigator Sherry Galladora, with 17 years in homicide investigation, described the master bedroom as a scene of extraordinary violence and rage. The bedroom had been systematically destroyed. The mattress was partially off the bed frame. Dresser drawers had been emptied and stacked in bizarre formations, and personal items were scattered across the floor. Blood spatter analysis revealed a prolonged attack that moved from the bed to various points around the room, indicating Lauren had attempted to escape her assailant. Blood was everywhere, Galladora later testified. It was on the back of the door, along the walls. You could see bloody handprints all over the carpet. These handprints, forensic experts determined, belonged to Lauren and showed decreasing pressure over time, suggesting she was weakening as she tried to crawl away from her attacker. The primary murder weapon, a heavy Buddha statue normally kept in the living room, contained both Lauren's blood and hair fragments. Forensic analysis indicated it had been used to deliver multiple blows to her head and torso. The medical examiner documented 15 distinct impact wounds, including several that shattered facial bones and fractured 4 ribs. These injuries alone would have been life-threatening, but they weren't the cause of death. The killing method proved even more disturbing. A pillowcase had been forced deep into Lauren's throat, causing asphyxiation. This required sustained pressure and determination, a personal, intimate form of murder that typically indicates extreme emotion. Defensive wounds on Lauren's hands and forearms confirmed she had fought desperately for her life. Most haunting was the evidence, suggesting Lauren had been asleep when the attack began. She was wearing pajamas, and the blood spatter pattern on the sheets indicated the first blows came while she was lying down. One side of the bed remained relatively undisturbed, suggesting her attacker had been lying beside her before initiating the assault. The medical examiner estimated that Lauren remained conscious for several minutes during the attack, fully aware of what was happening to her. "I can only imagine what was going through her head because she was alive," Chinetum later told reporters, her voice breaking. She knew who was doing this to her. Reggie Dunlap's unervingly composed 911 call inadvertently influenced the initial police response. The dispatcher coded the call as a death investigation rather than an active homicide, based on Reggie's assertion that Lauren had been dead for some time. This classification resulted in a standard rather than urgent response protocol. Officers Jason Mendez and Tara Washington arrived at the scene at 3:58 p.m., expecting to find a natural death or possible suicide based on the call details. They found Reggie waiting in his car as promised, still displaying the same calm demeanor captured in the emergency call. He was sitting there checking emails on his phone. Officer Washington later testified. "When we approached, he looked up and nodded like we were meeting for coffee, not investigating his wife's death. There were no tears, no visible distress." This unusual composure prompted the officers to separate Reggie from the scene immediately, placing him in a patrol car while they entered the residence. What they discovered inside instantly transformed their approach from routine investigation to securing a violent crime scene. Within minutes, they had called for homicide detectives, crime scene technicians, and additional units to establish a perimeter around the property. The investigation accelerated when detectives discovered Lauren's fitness tracker still attached to her wrist. This common electronic device provided crucial timeline evidence, recording her heart rate spike between 12:30 and 1:15 p.m., directly contradicting Reggie's claim that he had been away from the home during those hours. Digital forensics yielded additional damning evidence. Location data from Reggie's smartphone placed him at the residence during the estimated time of murder, despite his statements about attending church and running errands. His internet search history revealed queries about undetectable poisons, how long does it take someone to suffocate, and cleaning blood from carpet in the weeks preceding Lauren's death. The crime scene itself offered physical evidence connecting Reggie to the murder. Despite his careful statement about not touching anything, investigators found his fingerprints in blood on the bathroom doorframe and on the Buddha statue used as a weapon. DNA analysis of material under Lauren's fingernails, collected during her desperate struggle, matched Reggie's genetic profile. Financial records provided potential motive. Investigators discovered that Reggie had taken out a substantial life insurance policy on Lauren 6 months earlier, naming himself as the sole beneficiary. Additionally, bank statements revealed systematic transfers from Lauren's personal accounts to offshore holdings accessible only to Reggie. Nearly $300,000 had been moved over the previous year. Perhaps most incriminating was evidence of premeditation. A hardware store security camera had captured Reggie purchasing plastic sheeting, cleaning supplies, and heavy-duty garbage bags on the morning of the murder. The receipt for these items was found crumpled in his car, and the supplies themselves were discovered and used in the trunk, suggesting the cleanup had been interrupted before it could begin. Under interrogation, Reggie's carefully constructed narrative quickly unraveled. He initially claimed to have left home at 10:45 a.m. for church, followed by lunch and errands, returning to discover Lauren's body around 3:30 p.m. When detectives presented evidence of his phone's location at the house during the critical time frame, he modified his story, suggesting he might have forgotten, returning home briefly between appointments. His church alibi collapsed entirely when detectives confirmed with the congregation that not only had Reggie been absent that Sunday, but he had attended services only twice in the previous year, contradicting his claim of regular weekly attendance. The pastor had no recollection of ever meeting him. Reggie's account of discovering the body contained irreconcilable contradictions. He first stated he had merely glanced into the bedroom before immediately calling 911. When questioned about his knowledge that the blood was dried, he amended his story to include a closer inspection. Surveillance footage from neighboring properties showed no one entering or leaving the residence between 9 a.m. and Reggie's return at 3:35 p.m., eliminating his suggestion of an unknown intruder. Most damaging was Reggie's inability to explain the fitness tracker data. When presented with the heart rate information showing Lauren's struggle occurred while his phone placed him at the residence, he refused to continue the interview and requested an attorney. His first display of genuine emotion during the entire investigation. Reggie Dunlap was arrested on March 9, 2021, just 48 hours after Lauren's murder. The Montgomery County prosecutor charged him with first-degree murder, citing overwhelming evidence of premeditation and exceptional cruelty. Despite his initial confidence, Dunlap's legal strategy crumbled as forensic evidence mounted against him. The trial began in January 2022 and lasted 3 weeks. Prosecutors methodically presented the timeline of abuse, isolation, and financial exploitation that culminated in murder. Digital evidence proved particularly compelling. The jury was visibly affected by the fitness tracker data, showing Lauren's final desperate struggle. Throughout the proceedings, Dunlap maintained an unsettling composure, showing no emotional reaction even when crime scene photos were displayed. The defense attempted to suggest an unknown intruder had committed the crime, but this theory collapsed under the weight of contradictory evidence. After just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous guilty verdict on all counts. As the verdict was read, Lauren's family embraced, while Dunlap remained expressionless, his only visible reaction a slight tightening of his jaw. On March 21, 2022, almost exactly 1 year after Lauren's murder, Judge Elaine Winters delivered her sentence. Citing the extraordinary brutality of the crime and Dunlap's complete lack of remorse, she imposed the maximum penalty: life imprisonment with 55 years suspended, effectively ensuring he would remain incarcerated until nearly 100 years of age. This court rarely sees cases exhibiting such calculated cruelty. Judge Winters stated, "You systematically isolated, controlled, and ultimately murdered a woman whose only mistake was trusting you. Society must be protected from such predatory behavior." The sentencing brought some measure of closure to Lauren's loved ones, though many expressed that no punishment could adequately address their loss. The case prompted Montgomery County to establish a domestic violence task force focused on identifying controlling relationships before they escalate to violence. Lauren's employer created a scholarship in her name for women pursuing careers in her field, ensuring her legacy would continue through others' achievements. Throughout the legal proceedings, Dunlap maintained his innocence, declining to make statements to the court or through his legal team. During sentencing, Lauren's family and friends delivered powerful testimonials about her life and the void left by her absence. Her mother spoke of birthdays that would never be celebrated, grandchildren who would never be born, and phone calls she still expected each Sunday. Lauren was so good at loving everyone she encountered, Chinetum told the court, her voice steady despite her tears. The tragedy is that she extended that same openness to someone who exploited it. Her kindness deserved kindness in return, not betrayal and violence. Lauren's father addressed Dunlap directly. "You didn't just take my daughter's life, you stole her voice, her dignity, and her future. But you cannot erase who she was or how deeply she was loved." Lauren's tragic story reveals several critical warning signs that, in retrospect, signaled the danger she faced. The rapid progression of her relationship with Reggie, from first date to cohabitation in less than a year, exemplifies the accelerated timeline common in abusive relationships. His systematic isolation tactics separated Lauren from her support network, making her increasingly dependent on him alone. Financial control emerged early, with Reggie gaining access to Lauren's accounts while keeping his own finances separate. His inconsistent background stories, which shifted depending on the audience, indicated fundamental dishonesty that Lauren rationalized away. Perhaps most telling was Lauren's personality change. The once confident, outspoken woman became hesitant and deferential in Reggie's presence. Lauren's story is a powerful reminder that monsters often hide behind charming facades. If this story affected you, please like, share, and subscribe to help spread awareness. Your engagement could help someone recognize these warning signs before it's too late. The comments section below can become a valuable resource. Share information about local support services or your own insights about recognizing concerning relationship patterns. Remember, domestic violence affects people across all educational levels, socioeconomic backgrounds, and professions. By continuing these conversations, we reduce stigma and potentially save lives. No one should face what Lauren endured, and together, we can help prevent similar tragedies. Today, Lauren Charles is remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived. Her friends have established an annual scholarship supporting women in scientific fields, continuing her legacy of breaking barriers and fostering connection. The community garden where she volunteered now features a bench bearing her name and favorite quote, "Growth requires both roots and wings." Though her voice was silenced, her impact continues through those who knew and loved her. Perhaps the most fitting memorial is how her story now helps others recognize danger before it escalates. In this way, Lauren's compassionate spirit lives on, still connecting people, still solving problems, still making the world better through her influence, even after her physical presence has ended.